The restaurant was packed. Laughter mixed with the clinking of silverware and the soft jazz playing in the background gave the night a classy rhythm. Warm golden lights hung from the ceiling, casting a cozy glow over the long dinner table and lighting up the smiling faces of my coworkers. Tonight was supposed to be special. It was my night. For the past 5 years, I'd given my heart and soul to this company, solving problems no one else wanted to touch, working late into the night, mentoring new hires even when nobody asked me to. Those things had become second nature. It wasn't in my official job description, but I was the one keeping the company pulse steady. My manager, Thomas, had been hinting at it for months. I was supposed to be the next senior operations manager. And tonight, at this celebration, that promotion was finally going to be announced. I'd imagined this moment so many times. The applause, the pride, finally being recognized for all my hard work. I adjusted the hem of my navy blue dress and looked around. Everyone seemed to be having a good time. Officially, we were there to celebrate the company's quarterly wins, but deep down, I was waiting for something else. Thomas stood up at the head of the table and tapped his wine glass with a fork to quiet the room. My heart started racing. This was it. It was finally happening. "Tonight," he began, his voice cutting through the chatter, "I want to recognize one of our rising stars. In just 3 months, their dedication, creativity, and solution-oriented mindset have truly stood out." The smile on my face slowly froze. 3 months? Thomas turned to the young woman beside him. "Sophia," he said proudly, "from your very first day, you've exceeded expectations. Your leadership, energy, and ideas have inspired all of us. That's why I'm pleased to officially promote you to the position of Senior Operations Manager. Congratulations." Applause erupted. And in that moment, the world just, stopped. For me, time stood still. I clutched my glass tighter. Something got stuck in my throat, but I kept smiling. I clapped, automatically. Sophia stood up with a shy smile, thanked everyone. Then Thomas turned to me, like I'd just crossed his mind. "Emma," he said, "you're incredibly valuable to us too. Thanks for everything." This was a nightmare. But I couldn't wake up. That was it. 5 years summed up in thanks. Something broke inside me. But I kept smiling. "Sophia really deserves it," I said, raising my glass. Thomas nodded. "Absolutely. She's already doing more than you. Maybe you can take some notes." Laughter rippled around the table. Sophia looked a little embarrassed, but it was too late. The words had been said. They were already etched inside me. I laughed too. What else could I do? Cry? Slam the table and demand an explanation? No. I just sipped my wine. I had made a silent decision. I kept smiling. I stayed part of the conversation. I celebrated with everyone. But inside, a storm had begun. When the night ended, I walked out of the restaurant. The cold night air hit my face, and I instinctively pulled out my phone. My fingers, slightly trembling, typed a short email. Subject: Formal letter of resignation. Dear Thomas, please consider this my formal letter of resignation. This decision takes effect immediately. Sincerely, Emma. I hesitated just a second before hitting send. Then I pressed it, and for the first time in years, I finally took a deep breath. But this was just the beginning. Monday morning, Thomas had no idea what was coming. When I walked into the office on Monday morning, I felt an odd sense of calm. Same building, same door. But everything felt different this time. I had my bag in hand, my steps were steady, and my eyes were clear. No one in the office knew what had happened yet, but it wouldn't take long. My resignation letter was already sitting in Thomas's inbox. With one sentence, I'd broken years of silence. The receptionist smiled and said, "Good morning, Emma." I nodded back lightly, but there was something uncertain in her eyes, like she could sense something had shifted. As I walked down the hall, my coworkers were grabbing their coffee, chatting about the week ahead. Sophia was at her desk, still looking like she was basking in the shock of her promotion. I didn't have a personal issue with her. It wasn't her fault. But she had become the face of everything that was wrong with the system. I sat at my desk and turned on my computer. I was acting like it was just another day. But inside, I was waiting for Thomas to react. And it didn't take long. His door flew open. "Emma, in my office. Now." His voice had a tone I'd never heard before: urgency, confusion, maybe even panic. The whole floor went silent. No one had ever seen Thomas like that. Whispers started. What's going on? But I just calmly stood up, smoothed my shirt, and followed him. When I walked into his office and the door clicked shut behind me, he was already at his desk, staring at the screen. In his hand, my resignation letter. His eyes met mine. He looked stunned, even a little helpless. Is this real? He asked, barely above a whisper. You're leaving? I sat down, folding my hands on my knees. Yes, as of today, I'm done here. His brow furrowed. But we haven't even talked about this. It's so sudden. I smiled. We didn't talk about Sophia's promotion either. Yet here we are. His jaw tightened. Emma, it's nothing personal. Sophia's been progressing really fast. We thought she deserved it. You're a valuable part of the team too. But this reaction... I cut him off. This isn't a reaction, Thomas. I didn't yell Friday night, didn't cry, didn't cause a scene. I just watched. Then I went home, thought things through, and made a plan. This isn't an emotional outburst. It's a conscious decision. He looked away. Look, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe we rushed the promotion. But your resignation, it's too abrupt. The company needs you. I need you. I'd waited years to hear those words. But now, they meant nothing. I waited for you for 5 years. But you chose to brush me off with a thank you. And now, I've got a new path ahead of me. He looked at me closely. What do you mean? Trying to hide the feeling of triumph in my voice, I said, Remember Daniel? The CFO who left last year? The one who quit after clashing with you. He froze. Of course he remembered. Daniel used to be the backbone of the company, until Thomas pushed him out with arrogance. He reached out to me a few months ago, I continued. He's starting his own firm, was looking for a director of operations. I said no back then. I was loyal to this place. But Friday night changed everything. I went home, called him back, and took the job. His eyes widened. You're joining Daniel's firm? Yes. My first day is next Monday. He tried to say something, but no words came. Finally, he just lowered his head. You can't do this to us. You belong here. My answer was simple. No, Thomas. I belong to myself, and I have no reason to stay in a place that doesn't see my worth. He looked defeated. For the first time, he was losing control of the game. I stood up. As I walked to the door, I paused, glanced back over my shoulder, and said, You know, Thomas, some people are only appreciated once they're gone. Then, I closed the door softly behind me. As I stepped out of Thomas's office, the hallway felt quieter than ever. There weren't crowds, but I could feel the eyes. People were pretending to work, glancing over the tops of their screens, but really, they were listening. The normal rhythm of a Monday morning was gone. Something new had started. Every step I took toward my desk seemed to stir whispers. What happened? Why did he call her in? Thomas looked pale. Curiosity had swept through every corner of the office. I sat down and took a deep breath, opened my computer, and started gathering my files. Today was my last day. My goodbye didn't need to be loud. It just needed to leave a mark. Then I opened my email. I forwarded the resignation letter I'd sent to Thomas to upper management as well. The subject line was simple. Subject: Official resignation notice, effective immediately. My years with this company have been an unforgettable professional experience. However, as of today, I am resigning from my position. Sincerely, Emma. The moment I hit send, it was like an invisible wave rippled across the office. One person saw it, then another. And suddenly, the quiet hum of the workspace was replaced by murmurs of excitement. Emma resigned. It didn't stay a rumor for long. It spread fast. Rachel walked over to my desk. She was one of the few people in the building I truly trusted. Her eyes were wide, her voice trembling. Is it true? You're really leaving? I nodded with a small but firm smile. Yeah, it's time. She let out a breath that sounded like a mix between a laugh and a gasp. I can't believe it. But, honestly, good for you. Everyone who's been here a while knows you should have gotten that promotion. Thomas was blind. As her voice carried, others started to slowly drift closer, pretending to get coffee, shuffling papers by my desk, all of them trying to act casual while clearly tuning in. Even Sophia finally looked up. We locked eyes from across the room. She knew. Maybe she hadn't wanted this outcome either, but she had become the face of the system. She didn't say anything, just looked torn, caught between guilt and relief. But I didn't care. I wasn't going to think about what she felt. Honestly, her silence was its own kind of answer. About 10 minutes later, I was placing the last of my personal things into a box when a notification popped up on my screen. Subject: urgent meeting request. From Thomas. Time: in 15 minutes. Location: executive office. I shook my head and smiled. Oh, Thomas. That didn't take long. As I walked toward the office, I could feel the shift in the atmosphere. The team sensed something was happening, something big, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it. I knocked and stepped inside. This Thomas was different. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes tired, his voice raspy. "Emma," he said hoarsely, "please sit. I want you to reconsider." I sat down calmly. "I've already thought about it. For days. Maybe even weeks." He placed his hands on the desk. "Look, maybe we made a mistake. I'll admit that. Maybe we rushed the promotion decision. But this company is your home. Everything you've built this place stands because of you. That's why I want to make you a new offer." I paused for a beat, curious. "Let's see how far you're willing to go." "If you stay," he said, "we'll significantly raise your salary. I'll promote you directly to Director of Operations. You'll have decision-making power. Full authority." I smiled, but not out of happiness. It was the kind of smile laced with irony. "Thomas," I said quietly, "for 5 years you didn't see it. You looked me in the eye and handed my role to someone else, then told me to take notes. And now you realize my value." Just looked away. I stood up and reached out, not to shake his hand, but to say goodbye. "I'm leaving, Thomas, and I'm not coming back." As I walked to the door, I paused without turning around and said with a calm but clear voice, "You should learn to value people before you lose them." Then I walked out, and as I stepped through the office one last time, I could feel the looks behind me. There was surprise, admiration, and most of all, respect. Emma was no longer just the quiet one who kept her head down. That day, a legend was born in the office. It was the first morning of a new week. But this wasn't just any Monday. I woke up at the same time, drank the same coffee, but the woman I saw in the mirror was completely different. I wasn't just an employee anymore. I was someone who knew her worth and refused to leave it in anyone else's hands. I wore a simple but elegant suit. There was a soft smile on my face and a calm, excited flutter in my chest. The moment I stepped into the building of Carter and Amp, partners, one word echoed in my mind: freedom. The glass-covered, modern space radiated fresh energy, pulling me in. People were rushing around, but not aimlessly. There was structure in the movement, purpose. Everyone here was building something new, not just maintaining the status quo. When I stepped into the elevator, I caught my reflection in the display screen. My shoulders were straight, my eyes focused. This was the new Emma, the one who wasn't anyone's backup plan. I got off on the top floor and headed to my new office, where a warm welcome was waiting. A few people on the team already knew my name. My assistant approached me with a kind smile, handed me my onboarding documents, and went over my meeting schedule. I was being treated like a director from the very first moment. But the real shift happened during the morning's first leadership meeting. Daniel turned to me with that familiar calm smile and said, "Emma, we'd like you to lead the restructuring of our operations. Your experience and vision will guide us forward." I hesitated for a split second. I was still used to the old company's culture. Prove yourself first, then maybe get noticed. But that wasn't necessary here. Here, they already saw my value. Gladly, I replied. A few people nodded in agreement. Some smiled. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I truly belonged. The day flew by. Meetings, planning, mapping out a new project timeline. I loved every part of it. In the afternoon, as I sipped my first coffee at my new desk, my phone buzzed. Rachel's name lit up the screen. Rachel, Emma, you won't believe this. Thomas is freaking out. He's already called 2 emergency meetings. No one knows how to handle the processes you are running. Total chaos. I burst out laughing. It was all so familiar. They had called me the quiet worker for years. But the real weight of the company had lived in that silence. And now, that silence was gone. A minute later, another message popped up. Rachel, 3 major clients said they only want to work with you. One of them even contacted headquarters directly. Turns out you were running the entire show. Oh, Thomas. The same man who told me to take notes was now probably struggling to find time to write his own. Then came the message that hit differently. Rachel, Sophia's completely frozen. She's a sweet person, but she has no idea what to do. People are openly saying, if Emma were here. While all that was happening on the outside, I was calmly reviewing files in my office. That's when my assistant poked her head in. Emma, there's a call for you, from Dawson and Amp Company. The director wants to speak with you directly. I froze for a second. Dawson and Amp. County was one of the old company's biggest clients, one of the accounts Thomas had always dreamed of sealing his legacy with. And now they were calling me. Put them through, I said, keeping my voice even while waves of surprise rolled through me. A moment later, a familiar voice came on the line, Mark Dawson's deep, steady tone. Emma, congratulations on the new role. We'd love to work with you again. No one else from your old team inspires much confidence. We always knew you were the one running the show. I smiled. Of course, Mark. I'd be happy to connect. When the call ended, I realized it wasn't just about landing a client. It was the silent, long overdue recognition of trust. Something I had never been given outright, but had finally earned on my terms. Over the next 3 days, 2 more major clients reached out. They'd contacted my old company first, got no support, and came straight to me. I didn't chase them. They were already headed my way. Because in the end, it wasn't about the title. It was about who I was, and I wasn't someone who could just be replaced. That evening, as I walked out of the building, I caught my reflection in the glass door again. This time, I didn't look tired. I didn't look hurt. I looked like I was winning. Because I was. That Friday afternoon, just as I was wrapping up my work, a familiar name popped up on my screen. Sender, Thomas. Subject, a proposal. Even the subject line looked rushed. I clicked it open. The message was short and carefully worded, but the desperation leaked through every line. Emma, I think we should have a quick conversation. Perhaps we can find a solution that's mutually beneficial. If you're available, I'd like to set up a meeting next week. Looking forward to hearing from you. Thomas. I couldn't help but smile broadly. The same man who couldn't figure out what to offer me for 5 whole years was now carefully crafting emails, just to get a response. I leaned back in my chair and took a deep breath. I was no longer a side character in this game. I was the center. My reply was clear. Thomas, Monday at 10 o'clock works. See you then. Emma. When I stepped into my old office building that Monday morning, the air felt different. The receptionist looked at me with hesitation. She clearly recognized me, but wasn't sure what I was now. Visitor, competitor. Ghost? I gave her a brief smile and walked toward the elevator. I caught my silhouette in the mirrored glass. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent years looking up in this place. Now, I was looking down. When I reached Thomas's office, I knocked. A weak "come in" came from inside. I opened the door, and I barely recognized him. His face was pale, dark circles under his eyes, hair disheveled, his desk a total mess. What sat before me wasn't a man in charge. It was wreckage. Emma, he said, in a strained voice. Thank you for coming. I set my bag down beside the desk and placed my hands on the table, not sitting. I'm only here to listen. What's your offer? Thomas leaned back in his chair and sighed. Things fell apart after you left. I'll be honest. Operations collapsed. Sophia wasn't ready. The team's all over the place. And 3 major clients want to work only with you. We can't hold them. He said it with effort, like swallowing his pride one spoonful at a time. Emma, this company needs you, and I'm sorry I realized it so late. I want you back. We can restructure your pay, your title, your authority, whatever it takes. I'm ready to talk. I looked at him for a long moment. I had wanted to hear those words years ago. Back then, they would have meant something. So, now that the company's in crisis, you're willing to offer me everything you never did in 5 years? I asked calmly. He nodded. Yes. But don't think it's too late. I want to make it right. I smiled. But not out of warmth, out of clarity. Then let me ask you this, Thomas. If I hadn't walked away, would you have made this offer? That night, after promoting Sophia and telling me to take notes, did this idea ever even cross your mind? His face tensed. He looked away. That's the problem, I said. You only saw my value when I wasn't here. When I was here, I was invisible, and now that everything's falling apart, suddenly, I matter again. But it's too late. He tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. I'm sorry, but I didn't come here to return. I just wanted to look you in the eye and make sure you understood what you lost. I stood up, picked up my bag, and walked slowly toward the door. And just before I stepped out, I turned around and delivered the final blow. Maybe now you'll take notes, Thomas. I closed the door softly behind me, this time, for good. It was my 3rd week at Carter & Amp Partners, and everything was moving faster than I could have ever predicted. I was leading the operational restructuring, boosting team efficiency, rebuilding client relationships, but more importantly, I was genuinely appreciated. I didn't have to prove myself to anyone here. My value was already acknowledged from day one. As I stared out the window, the ping of a phone notification pulled me out of my thoughts. It was a message from Rachel. Rachel, Emma, just wanted to let you know, the board just removed Thomas. He's officially out. I froze, read the message twice, then slowly leaned back in my chair. My coffee was still warm in my hand, but what truly warmed me was justice. Rachel, the 3 big clients canceled their contracts to work with you. Others are preparing to do the same. The investors pushed back hard. The board finally pulled the trigger. Thomas is done. Fate doesn't shout. It just arrives, quiet and steady. And when it does, it moves you. That afternoon during lunch, we had a small celebration at the office. We'd just wrapped a major project. Daniel gave a short speech, and I took my seat in the front row of the meeting room. Hearing my name still caught me off guard, but something had changed in me. When the applause came, I didn't shrink with a shy smile. I stood tall, because this time, it was earned. After the meeting, Daniel came over. Emma, he said with a soft grin, some people are the cornerstone of a place. When they're gone, the whole building shakes. That's what's happening to your old company. Meanwhile, you're building something new. I nodded and quietly thanked him. As the days passed, the name of my former company started fading in the industry. Even more surprisingly, a few former coworkers began reaching out, asking if we had open positions. Some were subtle, others came right out and said it, "We want to join you." I didn't turn anyone down, but I was selective. My loyalty now belonged only to merit. One Friday evening, as the office lights dimmed and the day came to a close, a new message popped up on my screen. Not from Rachel this time, but from Sophia. Sophia, Emma, I know what happened. Not all of it was about you, but I was definitely used. I wasn't honest with you, and maybe if I had been, things could have gone differently. I hope our paths cross again one day on fairer ground. I'm glad you chose your own path. -S. I narrowed my eyes. I wasn't angry at Sophia. She was just a pawn put in place by the system. And when I walked away from that system, the pawn was left without direction. As I shut down my computer that night, a quiet peace settled in. Victory doesn't always come with a roar. Sometimes it arrives in a deep breath, in the kind of calm that lets you sleep with a clear heart. That night, for the first time in years, I slept in peace. Months passed. Carter and AMP, partners, quickly became a rising force in the industry. Our projects won awards, my team grew, and most importantly, the department I led became a space for professionals like me, people whose worth had long gone unseen. One morning, a new junior team member approached me. "Emma, ever since I joined the team, I've been so excited to work with you. People here see working with you as a privilege." I smiled. "That's because I've learned a lot in places where no one was paying attention," I said. She tilted her head, curious. "What do you mean?" I simply told her. "Sometimes, instead of trying to explain yourself to those who refuse to see you, it's better to go where you're already seen." And in that moment, I remembered again how years of quiet effort had transformed into something greater, a revolution. I wasn't just another employee anymore. I was a woman who had chosen to be the hero of her own story.